Good morning, everybody. So sorry about the technical issues, but here we are. Thanks to Carol Richard, our IT person. She's terrific. She came running up and saved the day. So here we are. Welcome to everyone. I'm so glad you could all be here today, and thank you for joining us. Today, the Friday Morning Book Group is discussing The Long Petal of the Sea by Isabel Allende. And I hope I said that correctly. Oh, here's Tom. Let me let him in. Tom, good. So now everyone is back. Hi, Tom. Glad you're back. I actually had never read any of her books before. And I was really blown away. I love this book. And I had read it quite a while ago and was not sorry about rereading it, most of it, not the entire book, but rereading most of it to prepare for the book group. And I really enjoyed it, reading it again. And I found it to be a very compelling work of historical fiction and really about survival, about belonging, about hope, about resiliency, and then all of that set within this very important history that I really knew very little about and got a terrific education. And it brought up so many questions for me that I felt were very, very pertinent to today, like where do we belong? And who is our family? How does our past shape our lives? And when are our actions justified? And what have we learned from what we go through in our lives? What do we learn from it, and how does it change us? So some really deep stuff. So I obviously learned, for myself, for the first time, the history of the Spanish Civil War, which I knew virtually nothing about. I don't think they ever taught that in school. Anyway, I must have been out that day. And she set that as the beginning, obviously the background for her story, her complex and colorful story. And the characters were so affecting that the history and the characters set together made the book just very resonating for me. The great upheaval, the suffering, and the horror that humans inflicted on others, and the punishment on others, which hasn't ended to this day. And the author's skill at integrating the two families and weaving them into the story as very believable participants in the progression of the events as the book goes on. And so much more. I don't want to take up too much time. I don't know if people have more than the time allotted, since we're a little bit late starting. I'd like to say a little bit about the author. She is quite an amazing lady. Many of you probably know about her because I'm sure, by show of hands, how many people have already read some of her books? Yeah, so a few, yeah. So she was born in 1942 in Peru, and she's a Chilean writer of more than 20 books, essay collections, memoirs, novels, and she's best known for her novels House of the Spirits, Daughter of Fortune, and Inez of My Soul. And she's the world's most widely read Spanish language author. All told, her books have been translated into 30 languages and sold 55 million copies, quite a bit. She is related to, her father was Tomás Allende, who was at the time the Chilean ambassador to Peru. So she has a kind of a diplomatic background. And her father was the first cousin of Salvador Allende, who was the president of Chile from 1970 to 73, when all the upheaval was starting. And she had 2 children, and she had quite a colorful life. What struck me as I was reading about her biography, she was actually, when she was an editor, she was fired for making unauthorized changes to the dialogue of a book in order to make the heroines sound more intelligent. She also altered any Cinderella endings, letting the heroines find more independence. So you know what kind of a woman she was. And Chilean poet Pablo Neruda, who of course figures prominently in the book, he once told Allende that she had too much imagination to be a journalist, and so she should be a novelist. And of course she did. She followed that path. So, so yeah, I don't want to talk too much, but I've already talked too much. So we should go around the room. So just raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And of course, as always, you don't have to speak. You can just listen. Everyone is welcome. So Richard, you had your hand up first. So you need to unmute, Richard.
How's that?
That's great.
This is a new laptop for me, so I'm not
Okay.
not as adept as I should be, as other of you are.
Okay.
I just finished the book, as I told a few people about an hour and a half ago, and I loved it. Someone, she's not in the group, had recommended the book several months ago, and I said, "Oh my God, the book group's doing this is great. This will be an opportunity to read it." And I definitely will read her other books. I mean, this might have been one of the best books I've seen in your group. It was just every bit of the book was interesting. I mean, there was no parts that you wanted to gloss over. Everything was there was so much information. And I was wondering 2 questions. The mother, Cadre, how did she get found and how did she escape? Number 1. And number 2, does the author remind you of any character in the book?
Good question. Good question.
I was really floored when, maybe I shouldn't have been, it's a novel, when they found Cadre was still alive in Spain.
Yeah, that was unrealistic.
Yeah. Too good to be true. How about and I like the book. Do you think it was realistic that all these women live to be 100 or real old, or that's like a fairy tale, even though she
the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah. Which I've tried. It does help. I knew nothing about Chile, virtually. I did know about Pinochet. I remember, to show you how old I am, I do remember the takeover of Pinochet. And I'm wondering why the United States allied with him in that.
Because
we did a lot of not very unsavory alliances.
They were becoming too communist for us.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so that was an improvement, to put people in prison and kill people.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. Look at Vietnam.
And I agree with you, Deb. The history hasn't changed much, and seeing what's happened in this country, we're not a hell of a lot better based on what we saw last week.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just history repeats itself, and I don't know if we'll ever learn. I mean, to have all those guards in the Capitol now, the most they've ever had since the Civil War, I mean, what does that tell you?
Unbelievable.
I don't know. It's I heard an interesting lecture about Castro, and he was talking about Hitler. He said 2 of the biggest mistakes, according to his history professor, was not executing Hitler when he was in prison before he became powerful. The same thing with Castro. So many mistakes are made too.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you very much.
Hindsight is 20/20.
There you go. Always, always. Thank you, Richard. Trisha.
I read this book in Mexico.
Mm.
I've been in Mexico for the last 2 weeks.
Oh,
And hearing the news about our country, washing back and forth, and then reading this book about the washing back and forth of government to government in Spain and then in Chile, was just the parallels were starkly apparent. I loved the book. I want to know more about the Spanish Civil War. I want to read Hemingway, who was part of the Lincoln Brigade, I think.
yeah.
And I agree, I did not know anything. I mean, I knew that Franco was bad. That's all I knew
Right.
about the Spanish Civil War. And I've never been able to figure out Chile. Isabel Allende lives in Marin, which is just across the bay from Berkeley, where I've lived for many, many years. And I've heard her read and talk. And she reads, and I heard her voice as I read this book. I could hear her voice in my ear. She's very blunt.
Hmm.
This is not lyrical. It's very blunt language. And she's also very sexy. And so there is a nice fascination with sex throughout this book. Very straightforward. I loved the characters. I loved how Ophelia became strong. But then at about page 200 or so, everything's sped up. You know, all of a sudden we're getting a chapter that goes for 20 years and then another chapter that goes for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I felt, oh my gosh, do you think she was running out of steam and just needed to wrap up all the ends of the stories, which she did. I mean, amazing. Carme and Jordi live together until Carme dies. Ophelia comes back and Ophelia's daughter comes back. That she was right. I mean, here's some magical realism, which was the prevailing character of House of the Spirits, that magical realism.
That's right.
And, you know, that Ophelia knew she was going to have a girl and she was drugged to the point where she did not remember giving birth. And she was deceived into thinking she'd had a boy, which was not what she knew in her heart, and that the boy had died. And of course she was going to have a daughter. You sort of knew that, even while she was being given opium by that awful priest. And the magic of the daughter reappearing at the end is just beautiful. That's where fiction, I think, comes in, and history recedes.
Yeah.
And I, you know, there was so much in this book that I went back. I was traveling all day yesterday, and I went back through the book trying to make notes about what happened in each chapter. Well, I've still got 100 pages left to make notes.
Oh,
It's a very complex book with a plethora of really fascinating characters.
oh yeah, absolutely.
And they all play a part.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved, what's his name? Oh, shoot.
Victor?
Victor.
Ibarra. No, oh, Victor, yes. But of course,
Ibarra.
Victor and Roser become middle class. Very interesting. And then there is Ibarra over there in Ecuador that Roser's having an affair with. Really lovely, you know, really lovely. It's great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Tricia. Thank you. Okay, who else would like to speak? Judy.
I would agree with everything that you've all said about the book so far. I had never read anything by her, and I probably now will go and read some of her other books. I tend to get in a rut with certain authors and read everything that they have. But anyway, I too learned a tremendous amount about the Spanish Revolution. I had no idea that they had put people in concentration camps. I didn't know about that part of it. And I didn't realize that there had been some of them that got out to go to Chile. I have been to Chile, and I guess when we were there, we heard some comments, negative comments about the United States involvement there. So I knew sort of some of that. And a lot of the country that they describe, I have been to. When he talks about being sent to the desert, that's in the north and the Atacama. And it wasn't real hot when I was there, but I can imagine, you know, that it is. But I also agree that every character in the book had a role. And I must say, the ending was a real surprise to me. It was sort of a kind of a surprise you get in a Jodi Picoult book. But I couldn't put it down once I started reading it.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I'm so glad. Good, good, good. Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Anne.
I can't remember, what was the name of the daughter who had the baby?
Ophelia.
Yeah.
Ophelia, yes. She did not give her daughter a warm reception at all. She as a character changed the most in the whole book.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And so the daughter really bonded with the father, I think.
Right. Exactly.
And their relationship, the father and Rosen, was just beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, no love in the beginning, just, you know, this is my brother's child, and I'm going to take care of them.
Right.
It was a little unreal with the mother being found, because she should have died. My gosh, she had consumption, and she lived to 100. But you know, a couple picked her up because she had the dog, and just took her along.
Yeah.
And she stayed with them for a number of years.
Yeah.
They were Quakers, right? Was that the Quaker family? I think. Oh, no, the Quaker family was the one that took Rosen in.
Right.
Yeah.
Spain.
Rosa.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I've read 2 of her books. I read House of the Spirits many years ago. I can't remember it. And Paula, the story of her daughter.
Yeah, I want to read that.
That was tragic.
Yeah. They say it's excellent though, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your comments bring up the question that I first asked, which is, who is our family? So Rosa and Victor, you know, marry for practicality, and then they fall in love.
Yeah.
But Marcel is their son. He's Victor's son and Rosa's son, and he's no less a son to Victor than he is to Rosa. You know.
Right.
And, they're a family. They're very much a family. So
I thought maybe the brother would come back.
that would be real magical realism.
Well, but the mother came back. That was a little much.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Anne. Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Tom.
I love this book.
Tom, Doran.
I'm sorry. I don't want to give you a heart attack, but I love this book.
I'm fluttering here.
I love the story. I loved how it moved. I want to tell you a story really quick because it's pretty funny. When I lived in Cambridge in the 70s, my roommate became friends with this Chilean woman. She was about 4'10", and she had hair like 2 feet wide. And she talked super fast and I could understand hardly anything. At any rate, we had an apartment where we were on rent strike, which was a thing back then. So we was living rent free, and I mentioned it to this woman, Juanita, and I said, you know, you can come and stay. So she moved in, and so one morning I'm getting up late and I'm stumbling through the apartment, and there was a door to the kitchen. And when I opened the door, there was like 25 Chilean people, and they were all chattering away. I was blown away. I was like, what? So I got a firsthand account of the story from Juanita, who fled the country because of the overthrow.
Because of what?
Because of the overthrow.
Yeah.
So her and her family were there, got out. And they were sort
You're
of
lucky. Yeah,
homeless in Cambridge and, you know, trying to figure it out.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Very, very reminiscent of today. Yeah.
Yep. So it was a great book. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Yes, thank you.
That's great. Excellent. Okay. How about Marilyn?
Hi. To me, reading this book was like finding the hieroglyphics that made the key to a whole bunch of things that I had seen or heard or talked to about, but never really understood the connections.
Hmm.
I studied in Europe when Spain was still under Franco. So what I remember is, oh, things are cheap there. Let's go visit. You know, I didn't know anything about the oppression. Later, I married a man who's a Spanish teacher, and we have traveled since retirement a lot through Spain. So I've seen, you know, on tours, here's a place where something happened. Here's a place where something happened, but I didn't see the big picture. In reading the book, I realized Franco died the day before my wedding. I had no clue that that happened. You know, I don't remember that, but I remember for a long time, he was a very, people were very quiet. They didn't talk much in the streets or anything. And then after that, there was this explosion of freedom
Yeah.
that luckily the king encouraged. And then we do some dancing, and we were in Norway with a dance teacher named Pablo. And he said that his family, when he was 6, his family had worked with the Allende government. And as the troops were coming in, people urged his family to escape. So they escaped to Argentina. And while he was there, he said Pinochet had contacted the generals in Argentina to say, send back any refugees that arrived there. So he had like 24 hours to apply for asylum. And the UN gave him 3 places that would take him immediately. And one of them was Norway. So he said his family went there without knowing where Norway was, what language they speak, that was very cold. He knew nothing, but he's grown up there. Obviously he's Norwegian now, but his version of it, I sent him this. I said, have you read this book? Because to me, all of these pieces kind of come together. I've been in Barcelona. I had no idea that there was so much slaughter there and retribution. I can't imagine escaping over the Pyrenees, but just the courage of that Elizabeth, the woman and the Quakers that just reached out to women and children and tried to save lives. It was just, and then the other person that today we honor our healthcare people, and to see Victor, who from the war to the small medical things to working with prisoners, he was even saving the life of one of his torturers. He was just, you know, I am a doctor, I save lives. And that really, really struck me.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I actually marked that page because it struck me, and I'll read a little bit of it. I know you saved the life of Commandant Osorio. That was a praiseworthy act for someone in your situation. And Victor says, you mean as a prisoner in a concentration camp? I'm a doctor. I attend whoever needs me, whatever the circumstance. And I was struck by it because today, doctors, nurses, all healthcare workers are taking care of people with COVID. And
Even the ones that are ignoring, you know, the masks or have come in with
yep,
Nazis
exactly.
tattoos and stuff. Yeah.
It's the first thing I thought of. Yeah, it's history repeats, you know.
Deb, what page is that on that you
That's
just read?
that's on page 269.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, 269. And
Oh, there was one more thing that I thought of. I've been reading Obama's book, and in it, in the first 2 years, he talks about how the effort to reach out to people around the world and to think of their issues, not just American issues, was changing the way people thought about America. And then I thought, wow, where we are now is people have really hated America, you know, and it'll be, I mean, what a task for Biden to kind of heal some of that. I don't know, with all of it's going to be so hard. And thought that reminded me of the Pinochet thing, how you could take a democracy that was reaching out and taking care of the poor and stuff, and then suddenly have an overthrow where everything changes. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's really scary.
yeah.
I-
It's going to be a monumental task, but
Yeah.
let's hope it's successful. Good. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your insights. Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Mary.
Hi, I just want to join the chorus here. So this is the first book I've read by Isabel Allende, and I was totally swept up with it. I couldn't put it down. I learned so much about the Spanish Civil War, the refugee camp in France, which was more like a concentration camp, and the Winnebago, the boat to Chile. I learned so much, and the characters, I just found them to be very resilient, and sort of the interweaving between sorrow and hope and love, how they all are intertwined. I was really moved by their stories. I just finished the book last night, so I'm sort of in the point where I'm sort of beginning to ask questions. Just, I think you raised some really good questions, Deb. A lot to think about here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very important themes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for joining. Irene.
Well, I found when I first started reading the book that I didn't know very much history of these things. And I thought, really? Pablo Neruda was an ambassador? So I went to Wikipedia. So I was reading different things about history, and I thought, isn't this convenient? They have this ship there to you know, come and get the characters out, and you know, it's a real ship. And so it was eye-opening because so much of it seemed fictional until I started checking out the facts.
Right, exactly.
And,
I
yeah.
the same.
Yeah, and we had gone to Spain a couple of years ago, and I had done some background reading, and you know, it was really hard to get a handle on the Spanish Civil War. You know, who's on this side, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. It seemed like they were all bad guys because they were taking retribution in such terrible ways.
Yeah.
And you know, but it was a very interesting book.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Good, good. Thank you. Yeah, I too found it as a newcomer to the history of the Spanish, you know, Spanish Civil War. I'm like, the Republicans, the Nationalists, these are the two sides, but they seem like they're both not great in ways, but I know who's really supposed to be the good guys. But it was a little confusing. Judy Wolf. Oh, you need to unmute, Judy.
I adored the book.
Oh,
I thought it did an incredible job as fiction, also as history. On the history side, a couple of points. Picasso has an amazing painting called, I believe, I may mispronounce the name.
Guernica.
Guernica.
Yeah, Guernica.
It's
Yes,
a museum in Madrid.
it's now in Madrid. It was in the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
No, it's in Madrid.
Went back.
Which really points out the horrors of that Civil War. And about the confusion, Americans, there was an American brigade fighting against Franco. And I think that Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls does kind of a great job telling that story. And there's a couple of Alan First books that tie into the Spanish Civil War. In terms of Chile, to our disgrace, we toppled the United States, a very popular government, Allende's, and
Right.
installed a puppet convenient to the United States.
Right.
And there is a movie about missing children. They were not only snatched away in Argentina, which is known, but also in Chile. I did not know about the order to return people who fled to Argentina back to Chile. Dreadful, dreadful time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was certainly not a very complimentary time for us, the things that we did in the name of trying to what we thought was squash communism, but yeah, we didn't do very nice things. So, well, thank you very much, Tanya. Tanya, you need to unmute. You need to unmute.
Now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now good.
I unmuted.
Good.
Okay. As everyone said, everybody loved the book. I loved that book. I finished it in 3 days. I just couldn't put it down. But like you said, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
I am a survivor of the war, and I know about the concentration camps and all that. Look what happened where Hitler had a good follower there about concentration camps. Also, I want to tell you, lately I read the book Irina's War, and how she saved children from the Warsaw Ghetto was an amazing story. And it's a true story because she's been honored in the, in the Holocaust museums and all that. So, like you said, it was an amazing book, and how Victor saves people. It reminded me that there's some wonderful people in this world that can save other children. Like Irina saved like 1,200 Jewish children, and she put them in the Christian homes and all that. It was amazing. So this book really opened my eyes how it is. And like you said, now look what's happening in our country. I mean, we can't believe it. Something like that can happen, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
a fact is that she really brought out some wonderful points in this book.
She did.
And I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Tanya. Good, good. Anne?
I looked up the word Basque to see who the people are.
Yeah.
And they're indigenous people who live in the, northwest of Spain and southeast France.
Ah.
But they're indigenous and they have their own language.
Ah.
Right. And the other thing, there's a Netflix movie called Cable Girls. And they're telephone operators in the first private telephone company in Madrid. And it's during they do a lot of espionage stuff, and it's during the Spanish Civil War. So that was the first that I found. It goes from 1929 to 1934 or something. And it's a very, very interesting Netflix film.
Cable Girls?
Cable Girls, as in telephone cables.
Yeah, thank you. On Netflix. That's great. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. So let's see. We haven't heard from Joanna. Did you want to talk?
Well, I need to talk because I can't be the only one not talking.
No, Kevin.
No, Kevin didn't. Kevin didn't. Okay. I enjoyed the book as well. I didn't know much about the history. I think the question of loyalty, I thought was pretty profound. Loyalty to one's country Here they were Spanish and they traveled, and then they just became loyal in a way to wherever they lived to kind of fit in. You have to. And also the relationships were wonderful. And the issue of loyalty too, you know, he ended up, you know, with his brother's wife, but then it was for Marcel's sake, and then they fell in love. So the whole issue of loyalty, I thought, was very interesting. But it was a very interesting book on a lot of levels.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. That's a good point, loyalty. Thank you. Let's see. Kevin, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I have a few things to say. I finished the book about a week ago because I knew I was taking an art class at Mass Art, and the class is like a 3-credit course, and it's condensed into 9 days. So I don't know if you guys have ever taken a very condensed course, but that's what it was, and I was meeting constant deadlines, and it was just so. Anyways, I finished the book about a week ago before this class. I saw some parallels to another book that we read, Exit West by Hamid. I think that was last year. That book. So I saw some parallels between the immigrants in that book.
You're right.
This really expanded my knowledge of the Civil War. I knew about Franco, but I didn't know to the extent of the Civil War. So that was good. And I looked at a few of the historical details, like the SS Winnipeg was an actual ship.
Right.
And I really liked the descriptions of the characters, like Ophelia, like when she was older, in her garden. I could picture in my head her just kind of sitting down and tending to her garden, and then just a few other things. My favorite character in the book was, I'm not going to pronounce it right, but it was Joanna Nancia. I don't know how to pronounce it, but she was my favorite character. She's a very stubborn woman, and just like really, she knew what she wanted, and she kind of just, she was a housekeeper, but she still had a lot of power in the family. And I really liked that.
Oh yeah.
And I love the surprise ending at the end. I knew there was something fishy going on about how they said the baby died or whatever, and they buried it. I knew there was something a little fishy, so that kind of gave me like a little clue to that.
Yeah.
So it was just a good book that really expanded my knowledge on Spain and Chile. So thank you.
So good. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you for coming back to the group. I'm glad you came. That's great. Well, would anyone else like to speak? Almost. Yeah. All right. Well, what a great group today. I would just like to say for next month, well, I think everybody knows that I now order the books, and they're here right behind the reference desk. So you can come upstairs, take the book, check it out, and tell them you're in the book group. They give you a little extra time. So for next month, for February, we're going to read Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. We have read Let the Sun Shine In, which Brian Stevenson is in, but it's by Hinton, a man who Brian Stevenson helped release from jail. But this book came before that book. This was Brian Stevenson's book. He is the lawyer, and it took, let's see, what did I say? Just Mercy. It's probably 4 or 5 years old, and first now I can get enough copies so we can do it. It's been so popular. So you'll see copies upstairs. There's also audio. It's also digital, whatever you prefer. We will meet third Friday of February. I can get you the date. Let's see.
15th.
What is it? The 15th? Yeah. The 15th of February, 10 a.m. So, but I'll send out a reminder and all that. So
There's a movie. The movie is very good.
Yeah, I saw the movie.
Uh-huh.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
No, the third Friday is the 19th.
Sorry.
Oh, the 19th. Okay, I don't have my calendar. So the 19th of February at 10 a.m. And just an aside, the book we did last time, which was so well received, The News of the World, that I am told is now on Netflix.
No, I don't think so. It
starts today on Netflix.
It's what?
Starts today on Netflix. Starts today.
Oh, good.
It's also on HBO Max.
With Tom Hanks. So You just can't miss that.
Beth
At least
Nurse
I
is
can't.
also a movie.
I want to see it. And be careful. I got spam that on my phone, this terrible spam message in bright red with a warning thing. Your Netflix account is not working and please call us and blah, 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 your credit card. And of course it was total spam. I got it for a few days in a row. So be careful. Just be careful. All these things are out there. Trisha.
Before we go, I want to ask a couple of things. Might we think about reading Hemingway, For Whom the Bell Tolls?
You read my mind. I was going to ask you that.
It's an old classic. I've never read it, but following this, it might be very interesting. Also, following up on the interest in the Basques. You know that there is a Basque community in Nevada. They are shepherds. They came over and they have become shepherds in the mountains of Nevada. And in fact, Paul Laxalt, who was a governor of Nevada, is descended from a Basque family. And his brother has written a book, and I was just trying to find it in my library and I can't lay my hands on it, but it's something about in the mountains, and it talks about not the connection to Andorra and the Pyrenees, but there is so much history that this book today has spawned in my mind.
Sure. No, you read my mind, because I would love to follow up with For Whom the Bell Tolls, to follow up on this book. So maybe, I'm sure I can get enough copies, so maybe we can do it for March.
Yeah. And also, it would also be fun to read others of Isabel Allende. The House of the Spirits is a very different novel.
Yeah.
And gosh, it was, I think, her first. I read it years and years and years ago. I'd love to go back and read it again. I also have found that rereading The Long Petal of the Sea is a very enriching experience to go back. I mean, I read it for the storylines. Now I'm going back and watching how it's constructed and how the storylines play out. And
it's always a little different the second time. This was my second time as well. Yeah. I didn't do the entire book, but most of it. Yeah. It's important. Well, those are very good ideas, and I will definitely keep them in mind. I'll make note of them, and maybe try for that. That would be great to do a Hemingway book. I think there was a time when we did do a few classics, and they were very well received. We haven't done them for a long time. I don't know who was with us when we did. Oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on the name now, but it was very, very well received. But I'll try for that. I think it'll be a great. Richard?
I just forgot to mention. Can you hear me? I forgot to mention that this book is very good on CD with and Eduardo Ballerino is the narrator for this book. If you want to reread the book, I highly recommend listening to him.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. All right. Well, I guess that's it. It is 11. Perfect.
Yeah.
I did it.
You did it.
I did it. All right, next time, hopefully I won't have these technical problems, but I am sorry about that, but we managed, so.
I'm glad it was yours and not mine.
And, maybe my daughter's fiance said to me that we are closer to the end than we are to the beginning of the pandemic. And I kind of hang on to that.
Oh, wow.
So
I had the vaccine yesterday.
Oh, good for you. Yay.
Yep. All of North Hill.
Where'd you get it?
North Hill.
Good for you. Oh, I wish I could get it.
We're a bunch of old people.
There's an advantage.
Yeah, CBS came in.
That's great. That's great. Well, everybody stay safe until then, because it's pretty bad out there. So just be really safe. until you get it. And once you get it, I hope we're gonna be home free.
We'll have to wear a mask. Not everybody else will have it.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Let's just hope for the best. You
Just
know,
have to put that
we're
margin.
moving in the right direction. So, all right. Well, everybody take care and be well. And I will be in touch for sure.
Thank
Thank you.
Deborah.
Thank you,
Have a
Deb.
good week. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Everybody take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.